I'm going to do something kind of fun. We're going to prove that the quadratic formula is true. We're going to prove and derive the quadratic formula that you all know and love. So I've set up what we have a general second degree polynomial, a general quadratic equation. And the whole goal is to find the roots of this thing, find the roots when it's set equal to 0, or in other words, what are the x's that solve this equation? So I'm going to come up with the quadratic formula. I'm sure there's another way to do it, but I'm going to do it by completing the square. So right here, you usually want to complete the square when there's a 1 in front of the x squared term. So I'm going to make it so there's a 1 there, and I'm going to factor out that a. So if I take the a out from ax squared, I'll get x squared. And I have to take the a out from the bx. So if I pull an a out, or if I divide by a, then I'll have b over a. And I said I wanted to complete the square here. And I'll remind you that we complete the square by taking half of the number in front of the x. So half of b over a would be b over 2a. And we square that number. So we take half of that and we square it. So if I square the top, I'll get b squared. If I square the bottom, I'll get 4a squared. And this number that I just created, we add and we subtract on the inside. So I add b squared over 4a squared, and I take away b squared over 4a squared. It's essentially I'm adding 0. I'm allowed to add 0, right? But the advantage of adding this 0 is that now these three first terms factor. It's a perfect square, right? This will factor into x plus b over 2a times x plus b over 2a, right? This is because b over 2a times b over 2a will be b squared over 4a squared, and b over 2a plus b over 2a will be b over a. And this times itself, that means quantity squared. So I can write x plus b over 2a times x plus b over 2a squared. Hopefully you're following this. I know it's a lot of letters. Okay, but all I did so far, I did a couple of fancy algebra moves and I completed the square. I'm gonna need some room, so I'm gonna erase some stuff. Okay, the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna redistribute that a. So if I redistribute that a through the parentheses, I should get a times x plus b over 2a squared minus, I'd have a times that, so a over a squared, that will leave just 1a on the bottom. Okay? And now my goal, I'm just going to try to isolate the x variable. So I'm going to do that by adding b squared over 4a to both sides and subtracting c. So let's see. If I add b squared over 4a, I get b squared over 4a. And I'm going to subtract c. And I'm going to combine these two things because pretty soon I'm going to have to take the square root, and I'd like to put this both under the square root. So I'm going to get a common denominator between these two. Since c is by itself, but you can think of c as c over 1. So the common denominator here is 4a, which means I'm going to divide by 4a, and I'm going to multiply by 4a on the top. And I can write that as a single fraction as b squared minus 4 times a times c over 4a. And hey, you're kind of already seeing part of what comes into the quadratic formula. So I've got this equals this. I want to solve for x, so I'm going to divide both sides by a. That will leave me x plus b over 2a squared equals b squared minus 4 times a times c over 4a squared, right, divided by another a. And the next thing, if I want to get x by itself, I'm going to need to take the square root of both sides. And that on the left-hand side, the square root will undo this. And I've got to square root this whole thing. Well, the top, if I square root this, remember I get a plus and I get a minus square root, right? That's what happens because if I were to square this, I would get what I had originally. But also squaring the negative will give you the same thing. So whenever we take the square root, we need to do the plus or the minus square root. And on the bottom, the square root of 4 is 2. The square root of a squared is a. Okay? The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract b over 2a from both sides. So it'll be x equals minus b over 2a plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. And hey, these happen to have a common denominator, so I'm just going to write that all over 2a. And we have our fantastic quadratic formula that you know so well. X equals minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe. If you want free formula sheets, you can check out my blog, BriTheMathGuy.com, and stay tuned for more interesting videos like this. Thanks.